Bonjour, hi. Welcome to that first EDGY Day. As you might have noticed, Eric and I are French Canadian, and sometimes we do this presentation, and there's a little thing called Montreal style. So there'll be a little bit of English and a little bit of French on almost every slide there. If there's something you don't understand, feel free to say, "What's that word? I cannot see it," and we'll go on.
Most of the presentation is still in English, don't worry.
Yeah. So we are international. First thing first, we want to know how familiar you are with the EDGY case or EDGY tool.
Yeah.
So can you do?
Yes.
From here to here to here, here being I have no knowledge about EDGY. Here I did a little bit play with it, a little bit more, a little bit more. I invented it. So how high do you guys are on a scale? Just take your hand and just say to me, yeah, low, mid, invented. Okay, we'll see at the end of the day if you still feel like you're in the middle or in the lower part, or maybe you could have invented it. We'll see, we'll figure out. So I am Jean-Sébastien, he's Eric. You saw us, no need to spend too much time there. And today, what we're going to talk about is not necessarily a single case, but a few cases, but it's mostly about our story with EDGY, how it came through us. That's why is it not following? Yeah, give me a sec. You touch something, okay.
No, it works now.
Is it there? Okay. There's some lag. Okay, here we are.
A question.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's filmed. So, but maybe it's okay if you take pictures. You're not sharing company secrets, or.
We anonymized it,
Okay.
and I think it's recorded.
Yeah.
And
We don't mind if you want to take some.
yeah, no worries. Or we'll send you the bill if we get to.
We'll share it with you.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, they should have regarding you.
So there we were 1 year ago. Who was there last year?
Was in Stockholm? Yeah.
Okay, a few of you guys. We did a workshop on enterprise coherence, and this is where the EDGY Beta 23 was launched. So immediately after that conference, we say, okay, this is good. Maybe we can do something about it and introduce that to our clients. We think it's a pretty good tool there. So first thing first, we said there's a great book here, and one of the pattern is tools kit sparking change. So for us, we use a lot of facilitation tools when we work, a lot of Canvas, a lot of methodology. So the first thing we thought here with that mindset is what EDGY and Friend, we are in Friends, our business is called in Friends. What will happen with our tool set if we cross these two together, and how will it impact our job, and are we going to do, be able to do a better job, and usually, hopefully, more money. Want to take these few slides?
Yeah, basically, Friends is a consulting company around experience design and product design. So we use as tool of workshop trainings for our clients and some tools around design like prototyping and stuff like that. So we were starting that as a design experience facilitator, experience facilitator, the design experience from Google, and then we just grow with other methodologies and now EDGY.
So we do in-person, digital, small scale project, big scale project, but we always work a lot with workshop, because the workshop, one of the things we realized when we started doing it in 2016 or 17, is that you can invite people from everywhere in the business to help us tackle the different issues we had. So EDGY for us was kind of a fit because it was just easier to talk to everybody with the elements and the facets there. It was a natural fit. So another example, this is how it looks. You've probably been to workshop before. You've seen them, lots of post-it, lots of talking, and free coffee. Here we go. So our objective of the year was to integrate it to the tool set, to figure out how it works and how we can push it a little bit more with what we know so far. So we have 3 small case studies. So we're going to talk about them pretty quick. You'll have the occasion to ask questions after each case. We talked about non-disclosed. So the first one is now called Car XYZ. So fake business for now, but it's the same. It's kind of the same.
It's totally the same dynamics and the same scale of the business that we work with, but for any reason we just cannot see that.
But everything we're gonna show you existed for real, so it's not a fake case. It's just a fake thing.
And if you are quite lucky, and I think you will be, I would probably leave the name speaking.
And we will cut it afterward. So, Car XYZ is a Canadian automotive repair service. And they wanted to know the health of their website.
Starts like, basic stuff. They came to us and said, oh, guys, you seem to have quite a digital experience. I said, yes. And they said, oh, we think we may have to rebuild our website. Basic stuff. But let's see where it brings us.
So we started working with them before the Stockholm event. So we did not have EDGY yet. And the thing they asked us, and friends and a few other business, is to check that out. So SEO, UX audit, and performance and technology and everything. So we aren't the only one to try to figure out what was wrong with their website service there. So first thing we do basic classic triangulation, UX research, so quantitative, qualitative, expert analysis, just to figure out what's going on with them. So how it loads, different stuff we presented to them. So SEO, we did some user interviews and we gathered all these stuff together and we made these slide deck to say, you have a problem. Classic stuff. So based on these, and this is where EDGY started to come up in our work with that. We figured out as a group with the three other person we were working with, they do have an organization problem because it's a franchising model, and sometimes, okay, who's doing what and what was pretty hard for us to figure out. And since they have a website that they need to make sure that everybody understands, we need to understand before doing the website. So we figure out, we went and scanned and checked for the organization. And also they had a very huge problem with the experience. It's a Canadian company, franchising model, people on the East Coast, West Coast, in the center, and sometimes the result were good with the clients and not good with the clients.
Yeah.
So the experience was
interesting. The experience level that on the west part of the country, clients feel they get the experience they deserve. But on the east part, it was very, very different. And Canada is quite wide, so we said, okay, is there something about regional management, or we didn't know at the time?
So understand the company, here we go. And this is where we started at the beginning. It was still in the beta version. So now we use tag for these different people to say, okay, labels, tags, labels. You can correct me on the right pronunciation. It used to be tag, it switched to label. That's why it's a beta there. So this is kind of the overview that they weren't able to explain to us what was really happening with the organization. So there's the Car XYZ Canada. Their clients are, because they sell franchise, they have regional manager that actually develop a region or an area, and they hire these mechanics in that case. And these mechanics are actually smaller business since it's a franchisee. Mm-hmm. And then there are B2B clients and B2C clients that hire the mechanics. So in reality, they hire the mechanics, but when they have some complaints, B2B go all the way back to the XYZ Canada and start to complain, and they say, hey, it's not our problem, you should talk to that guy there. Mm-hmm. So this was like a big issue for their experience there.
The more dark blue is that they have control over this area, and when we get down, the headquarters lost control or lost vision about what's happening at this level. Mm-hmm.
So we check the experience. So now that we had all these different user interviews and quantitative and qualitative data, we tried to simplify it to present to them where were the key problems and how actually the information was going through these different steps. We did a few of these boards for hiring. What's the experience that people get when they hire the company? I almost said the company. Or what it is for a regional manager to actually hire a mechanic or a mechanic to become part of the franchisee system. Because they had a dual mission. They need to be looking good and be clear so that people open their business and then become part of the franchise. But they also need to deliver a good experience to the client there.
So in that case, you maybe you remember it was yesterday or Monday. Some talks use the term flight level about if you are on a macro level or more like an operational level. So in this particular case, as we were digging for information, we start at the operational level. Come.
Okay, so this is basic if you're doing user experience. This is a basic just journey, the different channel you use, the tasks people are trying to accomplish. And here we have like all the people that are involved in every step. So we can see like sometimes there's two, sometimes there's one, or why does it change so much during? So we were able to explain that to our client, like maybe there's something that you could reduce the amount of people that they are talking to. And these are the insights and what was going well and the not so happy place on the bottom there. So we could easily spot there was like lots of problems here. So this is a place that we focus later on throughout our what we're working.
So clarification, is this the experience of the franchise or the end customer?
It's written small. I don't know which one it is, but they look pretty similar there.
Oh,
So I think this one is what's it? I'm zooming on mine.
but you did both, basically.
Looking for a supplier in that case. So people are in the business sector. So one thing we told you already is that the more bluish it is and the lighter it gets, so more control, more visibility on what they're doing, and less control is visibility. And this is where we can see there are different channel and tasks on this one here. So some are filled and some are offline, because we wanted to tell them, you see, like that you help with that task because it's your job as the high level Canadian level, but someone else help with that task. You control that channel, you don't control that channel. So, hey, the experience is not good, but these are the only places they actually control and see and have visibility.
A clear example of that is a lot of franchisees create their own Facebook pages and they didn't tell the headquarters. So they have mismatched messages with what the brand should speak about and the type of content they should produce. So it was kind of a mess for the social media, but everything around this company was somewhat the same, you know. They didn't control most of their communication and most of their experience. They leave that to the franchisee, where, you know, people that maybe have been on board years ago and, you know, just get sidetracked from the main kind of stories that should tell to their clients.
So at that point, what they need to do is to figure out, do they want to control that? Or do they want to change their business to be able to help, inform, and support the task they're not fully in control with? Because as a franchisee on the top level, this is probably what you should do if you don't control. And it's a franchisee business model. If you're asking people to give you money, you need to give them a service. So there was, like always in the conversation, who's the real client? Well, we have 2-3 levels of client, different service inside the franchising model, but service outside for the mechanics to repair the car. Here we go. Let's move forward on that.
Wait.
Oh, want to see that one? Yeah.
Yes.
Picture time.
Smile.
Yeah, there you go. So accountability, capabilities are spread out between the 4 main entities here. So So we did, okay, what are your basic capabilities? I'm not an architect, so please, I'm a UX designer at course, or these are just stuff that I'm learning to use more and more. But basically, based on the user interviews and the journey, they need to be able to do the qualification, billing, services, and everything. So we made them a list of that. These are the different steps. These are the very high level capabilities you need. And then what we figure out is what is going to happen if we mix the organization, the channel, and the capabilities, because their problem was sort of control there. We made them a RACI map by crossing all these things together. You know what's a RACI map? So responsible, accountable, informed, and there you go. So we only did the first part with them because if you remember at the beginning of the case, our job is to do websites. So I'm not going to do not going to tell them who's responsible for the billing. We've heard some stuff on the experience and all the interviews we did, but it's for them to do it at that point because we needed to focus on our first job. We will go with them and do that later. But it's still an ongoing project there. So this is where you say, okay, this is what you control, this is what you don't control, and all the Facebook pages and all the stuff that are there, not in control. So that was one of the first realization they had. So, okay, website priority, there you go. Okay, so let's remember, for us, the website is a channel, and this channel that will communicate content. And actually, this will affect the brand. So we need to talk about their identity in order to do a great job with them.
And guess what? They didn't think about their identity for more than 20 years. Wow. So we had to dig into our.
Basically, the old website was written by a single person that really did not want to do it, and she was not a copywriter. It was in English and French, and it was all messed up. Identity, the way we work usually, there's a branding sprint made by Jack Knapp, and throughout the years I changed it quite a lot and add some exercise to go from identity to art direction, and that you can apply so that the client understand the link between the identity and how you're going to represent that stuff there. Basic output, it could be more EDGY, if I can say, but this is the basic template we usually do. We have like these little thing there. How should your brand behave? So if you're more on the left, you're more serious, but if you're on the right, you're more joyful. So this will influence the way you write or the picture you're gonna choose, and there's a few variables there. Element of success, the core values, the ethic, and everything. And we also did what we call a success story, where they talk about past successes and, oh, we did that and it was great for the people, and then we convert that into good core value. Because when you ask people what are your core value, quality, growth, and then when you talk about what moves them, they say we did that for the people and we're so proud about them, and it changed the mindset there.
At that point, we discover quite great stories about the brand that were almost never told anywhere. They are kind of a family business at the origin, and they help a lot their franchisees because it's mostly immigrant in Canada. They just arrived, so they don't have all the flu, and they want a better life for the children, stuff like that. And the company, the headquarters, give money for the children to go at university and stuff like that. They really want to create a new entrepreneur for Canada business ecosystem. So they teach them some accounting stuff, and they really take care about their franchises, but it never said almost. No, it's nowhere to be found, and there is a great material to do branding around that.
Okay. So let's go back and see where we got so far. The wrong slide and your wrong order. Okay, we're gonna go with this one, and we have the slide order. It happens. Also, so now that we have the identity, it was easier for us to create a website based on what they wanted to say, what they really needed to say. So we did like the all information architecture services, why us, who we were talking to, very high level at that point. But then you say, is this the people we're talking for? And is this what we want to say, what we have to say? Basic stuff at that point. And then we move a little bit, okay, first navigation, second navigation, third navigation, the layers of navigation with the Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff. This is the site I was looking for. And this is like the overview of the things we did with them at that point. So we started with the audits there, are pretty white. And these are the research Eric and I and the other team did about their old websites. And then we did these different top tasks and survey and check the channel. We did all the story workshop and purpose in there. And in order to create content on the top, we needed to understand the organization, because one of the main content is who we are, how we behave, what we do. So it was an important selling point to create content. And we tackled the capabilities to understand the organization. Then we can create the good content for the good experience there. Yep. So, and now this is more, okay, this is what we have as an information, how everything is related. So we move from very high level to lower level gradually with the client in order to, so they can understand how all these stuffs are related. And then we go on with more architecture thingy there and a few stuff we cannot show right now. And then, yeah, when everything is done, we talk to SEO, art director, we put everything together, and then like we had all these different things done, so the website could be built with all the good content. So we find ourselves navigating through a higher level, an operational level, and then going back to coordination or meso level, which was our kind of synthesizers that the client can understand. So we move in between these different flight levels.
Yeah, because that's
Oh, sorry.
the other team, the copywriting, graphical design, etc., need to have this operational level to be able to understand why the project should, where the project should go. But the client don't need to understand how you should create the paragraph into pages to fit with the purpose and stuff like that. So.
But as a designer, I do need to understand a little bit of the architecture, a little bit of everything of everybody's job in order to do mine without asking too much question or creating traps for other people that are also working towards the same goal in us, is to do that good website there. So what we learned, the levels, we changed views based on these level macro, meso, micro, we call them that back then.
Now it's the flight level.
Or it's similar, or you can say yes or no. It's it's still better. Yeah, everybody feels more in control, know a little bit of everybody what everybody is doing, so it's easier for them. And mixing element can give us new meanings when we present together. So we created multiple working canvas and board based on these different mixed elements, and this is one of the biggest takeaways. We started like converting all these things together and give more meaning, and it's easier for everybody to work together. That was the first case.
Yeah. Maybe we can have some questions if you feel for it.
I have one question to clarify for me. So your work order was on the base flight level, and to fulfill that, you had to go to a higher flight level and look at stuff so that you can go back to your primary work order to fulfill it and to satisfy the customer. Do I see that correctly?
Totally.
Yeah.
In this particular case, we had to start at the operational level because the digital experience of the company was such a mess that we just had to dig and clarify a bit. And then we get back to the higher management and say, hey, for you, let's simplify it, and we into the higher level. Yeah, you totally right.
But I'm super beginner in EDGY, so I'm trying to fill in some gaps here.
Yeah, we definitely.
So yes, last night we spoke about the values and the relationships.
Yeah.
Not necessarily concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So looks like you're not bound by a rule, to follow those relationships. So we know that a capability must generate an outcome. Even though it's not explicitly a relationship defined in the structure of EDGY, you can actually, you've got freedom and ability to do that. Is that the correct statement to say, or are we more bound by what we're saying?
I would say that first, as an open source kind of tool, we really adapted to every use case first. Then the need of this particular client one was about the redesign and the rethinking of the website experience. So we showed that we have, you know, we put a finger into capability stuff, but we said, okay, it's not that where we want to go for now, and they told us that too. They said focus on the website, and we will do exercise and more analysis later on this particular issue. Yeah,
I understand your limitations, probably more of a question related to our conversation yesterday. So you've answered an affirmative. We can actually
yeah.
break those rules.
Maybe on the third case study, you'll see how we handle the relationship between these things.
I think in the EDGY specification, we discussed this very issue, this point. We have relations in EDGY between capability and organization, so there is a relation between. But I think in the chapter we also say something like, of course, if you find a relation that makes sense from people to asset, makes a whole lot of sense. So that's the owner of this IT system, because potentially there could be an infinite amount of relations between the elements. So this we call them basic relations in EDGY. How do we call them? Major relations, something like that.
No, we have something called core links.
Core links.
Yes, so these are like suggested links that we think make really sense, and they kind of follow the way the facets are laid out. But then there's also something that's called a shortcut. So instead of like if you have two elements and they're really far away from each other, but you want to create a direct link because that makes sense in your context, then do that.
We are probably full of shortcuts. The way we use it is we think there's a tremendous and a very good value on communication and explaining stuff to client with the tools. So there are going to be some shortcut because like as a designer, I know this is how it works, but at the end of the day, what we think is that if it gets the client to understand better the situation and make better decision, and it gives us the right to go where we want to go in the organization to scan and try to edit some other stuff, we move forward. It does not have to be perfect. It just needs to help us achieve the goal of having a better website. Then we can do like measure everything afterward, but it's an ongoing process all the time. Maybe one or two questions. We have two other cases. I don't know. Sorry here.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about the architecture part, because you're talking about the main corporate website thing. But was it just older like thing, or was it also what their functionality? Did you need to connect to back office system to transactions?
Next year will be with the back office more stuff and the ERP and everything. So right now it was just the basic stuff, informational website. We started with something like
Okay.
And
I would be interested. How did you use EDGY in your team, or you also exposed it to the client?
To the client and the other.
This is the model, and this is how we operate. So
yeah,
the client also was.
This is interesting because we start to use the colors, the icons, and stuff like this talk is the very way that we use. So we start very lightly. And then they start to ask questions. Why do we see these icons every time? Why this? Because the edges color are not with.
So first we started to have it in background for your team, and we work after this model, and then they start. Okay.
Yeah, we knew that we hit something good when we showed the first journey, and they said, okay. We understand where we see where we have control or where not, and okay, if it's pink, it's about the task, and they start to integrate the vocabulary. Honestly, it's a client that are totally not used to those kind of strategic approach and mapping and stuff like that. They're more like repair cars.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, yeah.
But it was gradual over almost a year. But they start to asking questions and wanting to understand, why do you do that? Why do you use it like that? And that was where we knew that we had something.
And like, we don't ask permission to use EDGY.
Yeah.
Because if you ask someone to build a house, you're not going to say, oh no, this should be nails, this should be screws. This is not the right thing, the right way to cut these stuff. So we're bringing our tool set, play with it, and then they ask question at some point and we move on.
Okay.
So this is a great takeaway, just to introduce EDGY as a expression tool and then lure people into actually collaborating with it.
Yeah. And as I say, it's like
That's a facet.
showing a few stuff there and mapping stuff that is not a part of the UX designer job, and just say, I need that info, this, that, we need to go there. Can you give me the information? Can I go fetch it? It's the right to play in other places.
So actually
But-
asking them, kind of bringing them into the EDGY world by asking them to fill in the gaps in our personal EDGY observation.
And we really need to be fully aware of our limitation. Like I told you, I'm not an architect. At that point, like, this is what I can do for you guys. You'd better ask someone that is a pro in there.
Mhm.
And then we bring it into the team and they fill in the other stuff. So we don't do everything, but this is the output of everybody's work. It's not just my brain, it's everybody's brain that is in there. And we do the best we have with the time, the budget, the constraint. If the client is getting better, then we're moving forward and it's a good thing.
Let's go to the next case because they are quite different and we'll see other aspects of EDGY.
That's a hidden thing because it will tell you who it is.
Good, let's do this one. Axe 6. It's a very special project, one of a kind in a lifetime, I think. We received a call this spring. One of our ex-client to move for another job, and when the job was announced in the media, I said, "Oh, that's very interesting." And she wrote us. She don't call us, calls anyway. And she said, "You show me something with colors and bubbles and stuff like that to help business align and understand themselves, etc. And I want to see if it can help my new role, my new project." So she introduces the new project. It was the 3 levels of government in Canada: federal, provincial, province, and local, the city of Montreal. And it puts some money. And when I say some money, it's a $60 million project to create the next big startup accelerator in Canada, competing with Station F in Paris, Mars in Toronto. This accelerator will take startups and in 3 years put them on the global level.
You can see that with the first case and the second case, there's the steps are getting higher pretty quickly.
This is it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I always tell my slide before the slide happens. So we had the chance to have the workshop with them at the very beginning of the project. They were a team of 2. The guys who have the political power and the main concept in his head, and he was working on the concept for 2 years. He is also the first consider about innovation for the finance and economy minister of Quebec province. So he have a lot of ideas there. He thinks on that and he tells pieces on the left, on the right to everybody he speak, and then he got his founding. So our ex-client Genevieve meet him and they decide to work together on this, but they are only 2 and they have a lot of work to do.
So, you know, on good teams, usually there's always like that guy who have all the ideas and all the dreams, and then you need someone to calm them down and say, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and this was like that team for them. So
for people who know the EOS model from the MIT, they call it the visionary and the integrator. And in business, we have that too, you know, Wozniak and Jobs and stuff like that, you know them. And in the art world, they also have that kind of dual way of thinking with the art director and the general manager from a theater or an opera or something like that. There is always those two persons.
And for the sake of time, we're gonna move on. Okay, so map first.
We have to open the head of Richard and see what's inside, metaphorically, of course. So we did some workshop with them to map, to map what is this big project, and we thank you. We run the EDGY lighting scan that we got it. Of course, it's beta. I can just remove
It's
myself.
another thing that, so we try all the stuff for you on our clients. We take all the risks.
Yeah, so this scan is a quite fast way to just put ideas, concept, vision on a map to be able to see that for the team to see how the same thing is in terms of mapping.
So
it's we did the six small step process. First, you name the project, then you send with a closed question. For you saw yesterday the closed question when you had the sneak peek about what's coming with EDGY. So we had that before you. And we decided to run it a slightly different way. We asked our two participants to rate every question from 1 to 10. 1 is we definitely did not talk about that, never. And 10, it's well known by all the team, it's documented, and we can find the documentation right now.
and there's something in the middle that if people say, oh yeah, we know, we've talked about it and it's all fine. You cannot give a 5 unless it's been written down somewhere. So in your head is not a good place. You can go at a 6, 7, 8 if it's written down somewhere. So that you don't lose information if people switch place. We talked about knowledge, how important it is. So we put a bar there, and the 4 is pretty hurtful when you say, yes, we know. No, it's a 4. It's, you don't know, it's not written there.
And other than having these numbers to help us map where the project is in EDGY, it creates a lot of meaningful conversation with the participant. As somebody put a 3 and the other put a 7, they said, why? Let's have a talk. So it was a great tool just to go deeper into some aspects, some elements of the project. And then we focus on the element that we think should be addressed at first, prioritize, label them, and then do kind of a quick list of action items that we should do in the coming weeks.
We do facilitation quite a lot, and we know there's a lot of ideas that die in the room. So always end up your workshop or meeting like that with actionable items. What are we going to do next? When is the next meeting? What do we need to bring back to the next meeting there? So that workshop end up with actionable items so that it keeps things rolling and alive there. So we're gonna go probably quickly on all of these because you'll get the slide if you want to do that, or maybe eventually we'll have a template for everybody to do it. Yeah, so these are the different questions here from 1 to 5, like we said, and these are the first question that we had at the beginning there. So the experience.
They may have evolved from the time.
No, they evolved. Yeah. But still, they were pretty good, and we had to do everything in French. So we always have English and French, but we always have 25% more job than most people because we're in Montreal. Architecture, just to question organization. So this is the part where we say, okay, we got the answer. And this is what it looks like. We did it in person. So we did that big print. Actually, never buy these huge color prints. These are prints that usually you ask for when you people that draw the blueprints for their house or stuff, so they come pretty cheap. It's few Canadian dollars per poster. So, but don't buy full color, buy architect blueprint scan. It's in black and white, this color, but way cheaper. So we asked all these questions, good conversation, and this is where they start figuring out. Okay, we didn't thought of that. Okay, where are we going? And have all these meaningful questions. We did two sessions of 3 hours. There we go with them, and we completed that. These are some of the thing, a few takeaways we had with the label there. So you can go ahead.
They focused a lot on the assets part because they have to create a place for startup to have their offices. So they were pretty focused on assets and what capability should we provide into this place, this space. But they missed a big stuff. First, the story was not aligned. As there is a lot of stakeholder around this project, every stakeholder have his own way to tell the story that make them more in front. It's a very political project. So we focus on this part as if you don't have your narrative right, you won't be able to federate, to aggregate, and to align all those stakeholders. And it was critical at the time of the project to do this intervention. And then they said, yeah, we know why the startups will come to our big accelerator. But it's, are you sure? I said, we think maybe we have a 3 or 4 on the scale. And I said, don't you think if you want to be right on the capabilities and to have those assets they need, you need to know why they will come. And I said, that's a bit clever. So yeah, we identify what's to focus for the next step of the project. And they are right now finishing the kind of survey and interview with stakeholders and future startup to come into the accelerator to really understand why they will come.
Okay. Choose a starting point there.
With 2,000 on my side.
Yeah.
So what I just say is written there. Okay.
So yeah, and so yeah, like you said, we started somewhere, but every time we use EDGY, people say, "Oh, this is where we want to start, and this is what but we always end up starting elsewhere and moving pretty fast elsewhere. And this is a very good value when you want to understand where you're going, what to do, and really be able to work with other information outside of information you need actually. So this is kind of their goal and how they're going to go through the EDGY and what they're going to tackle first. And that's how it's going to work with them. Of course, we try to keep things clean. And now that we did in person, now it's digital, so we can update the label and just add stuff over time.
The posted version is very interesting when you have people in front of you and you want some dynamic in the workshop, but work further, you have to clean it.
There we go. And then they'll be able to structure their portfolio of services with the different partners and map everything they need to know. So they're going to go and dive deeper on each of these.
This project, of course, it's still ongoing. We meet them at the beginning of October to continue.
So key takeaways for us. We created a scanning workshop that we are going to use pretty much on every case now. We also figured out a few things is that because we tried it with other people, sometimes it's high level context with the C levels, and sometimes it's like more operational. We need to add XYZ feature in that context. It's pretty much the same scan, but you cannot ask the question in the same order, and the actionable item at the end won't be the same. So on high level, it's more like, oh, we need to validate that, we need to research for that in order to take decision. But on the lower level, it's more like, you need to, I don't know, push some code into GitHub, or I'm not a programmer. But the actionable item will differ a little bit, and the order of the question there. Maybe a few questions?
Yes.
Well,
One or two.
Yeah.
After the project,
Do you suggest the customers an enterprise governance model that they can check their they can do their health check themselves?
As it's an ongoing.
To the engine.
I'd say not yet, because,
I don't think the ones in the back will actually heard the question.
oh yeah, can you repeat the louder for everybody?
Yes, I'm asking about the health check governance processes can be provided by the EDGY framework, maybe.
About governance of the project, yeah. They know that we have to create those kind of governance committees, but it's still ongoing. But I really think that for now, our client love EDGY so much that they probably will onboard the governance committee with EDGY, but I cannot say these people are not selected yet.
Yeah, and most of our project, I mind it's always the first time we introduce that. So how are we going to keep it alive throughout 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and make sure it's still and always relevant? It's next year.
Tell about you next year.
There you go.
Another one maybe, or at the end? Okay, let's.
Move on.
As Jean-Sébastien said, we start maybe more operational, getting higher, and now we will speak about sustainability, because this is what we have to speak now, I think, because we need that. So, University in Montreal asked us to help a group of MBA students that doing French MBA around sustainability. And we said, okay, they want three things. Somewhat the model of a design sprint, talking about design thinking, that's fine, we mastered that. And then sustainability. But guess what?
We're not sustainability experts. And this is where we introduce, we have our friend that she's actually an expert in sustainability. She does a little bit of facilitation. So, and I mentioned that on the first project, you need to be aware of your capability. And when there's something you're not an expert at, you invite someone. So she helped us create that workshop, and she made a talk about sustainability. And this is how we've been able to combine the design sprint aspect and the sustainability aspect on that workshop there.
With EDGY.
With EDGY. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, why did we use EDGY for that particular one? Is that we know there's a lot of people that say sustainability, ecology, community, but then all these things that are highly that are in the identity part, purpose part, don't take flight as much as we want. So we are convinced that if we use EDGY, it can help people explain, okay, this is how this idea, we are going to make it happen, and this is what is going to give us an experience. So by being able to going from one facet to another and making sure that everybody is just not an idea, everybody is in to it, just and to make it happen. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. The goals and EDGY.
You saw that at the conference yesterday. So yeah, the idea behind this week-long formation was to help those MBA students to show how a sustainability project or a CSR project will impact the enterprise and why it's totally doable.
There you go. So the few steps we took is these were real cases. Actually, we had real clients and they interviewed real clients. So we did a small discovery phase. They did a small mapping phase with EDGY. Actually, we explained it to them. It was good enough for something we taught them in less than an hour. Actually, they co-created that sustainable strategy and where they wanna do what they wanted to do, where they wanted to go with that. And we prototyped their strategy by using EDGY, because EDGY you can actually articulate what you want to do, and we're gonna show you that in a moment. So this is how it looked. Classic classroom. There we go. This was the next slide, so it exists. And this is what we taught them to do in that period. So this was the example we gave them, so basic recommendation. So, okay, we want to introduce a recycling program. Okay, but you'll need some recycle bin and someone that that will enable the you to collect the recycle, and there needs to be a person in charge. But also, since you want to shine in the world, you might as well write an article that will be published in a local newspaper, and then that will improve your brand, the digital brand. And this is where you get the best, your corporate social responsibility, and you're actually moving through the good sustainable direction there.
And for this particular use case, they use a lot of the link and relationship into EDGY, just because they were students, so the relationship helped them see the impact of the recommendation they are doing to the rest of the ecosystem.
So once it's mapped, might as well write it correctly and just not improvise like I did this slide before. We recommend you that you implement blah, blah, blah. So it's short and people can understand that, and you can highlight it, and just for people that understand that there's architecture, people can start channel, brand, and article, and everything is in there. Some plug in there. And this is where we introduce a relationship, actually. So these are probably shortcuts, but if a client in a short period of time can only articulate what he had in mind, where he wants to go, and what it will affect, and it's all about language and communication, and they can move forward with that ideas and everybody understand. I don't mind about the shortcut. Sorry for those in the group, but I don't mind for the shortcut if only people move forward and are going into the good direction. They need to start somewhere, and starting is the first step to be able to really change things.
And they have to present their recommendation in this model at the end of the week to the entrepreneur that did the brief at the beginning of the session. So
most of the team had the time to do actually 3 strategy and articulate them, and this is one of them, just to show you that it does exist. So yeah, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we are trying to tackle, and yep. So we're gonna start here, and this is gonna go through that channel, and there's gonna be a better journey here and there. So definitely not perfect, something they've learned in an hour, but this is how they articulate it. And when they were in front of the clients, they did not use it that much, but they were crystal clear about what to do, what to expect, and the outcomes. So it's, someone said it on a conference, it's about the journey more than what you deliver. If people understand what they wanna, where they wanna go, and they can talk about it, and people go there, then it doesn't matter for us if it's not perfect, as long as they go there. They are in a better direction. Then if we want to make it actually good and the good way, I can go back and just put it myself and add some clarity later on. But for people to be able to do that, to clarify what they have in mind, strong goal for us. So here we go. We use EDGY to elaborate, communicate a strategy about sustainability. And that's the third case study here. So yeah, we're gonna, any question about that one?
4 minutes.
4 minutes? It's not a question.
No.
We're gonna wrap this up after the question.
It's not a question, I think it's an observation, and I think it's something really, really interesting that you did when you actually described the use case through a graph, another story. You made it extremely accessible. And then when it's so accessible, you can actually play on it and just create refined examples. And this is what the students did.
Yeah.
So you basically open up the use case to more examples, and then afterwards it's possible also to maybe rebuild the use case. But it is a really interesting.
That was what the expert told us. Most of sustainability projects don't fail because it's too complicated. It's just because people don't understand at their level what it's all about.
Yeah.
So with EDGY, you can stretch that on the flight level you want.
And we know like implementing a process of recycling, or there's some complexity there. But at some point, an expert is going to do this job here, and another expert is going to be able to understand why he's doing an article. And everybody's gonna know what to do because they have a whole picture. They don't need to master everything. Let's let the expert handle their complexity and do their job actually. But it's being aligned.
Last question.
I think, sorry, I understand it. I think it's
You wrote it, huh?
because the, like, you can basically see if you cut it in the middle, like, if you have only the top part, it's greenwashing. If you have only the bottom part, you might not get the money because you will not have the article in the local newspaper. So you need all of it. It's another question.
You can move from Q&A, questions and observations.
I'm interested that inside each of the boxes that you presented, it's found a kind of natural level, not going too deep in terms of how the process works and so on. Did that happen naturally with all of the different cases, or were some of them much lower level?
Well, for the level, I usually take the higher level, and what I will show you is how I deal with complexity. So usually I do the interviews and I have like 1,000 sticky, categorize them, color them, place them in it, and then I bring back.
So you're helping to achieve
Yeah,
that.
because they don't need to know the complexity. It's my job, and I know with that because I want to handle the complexity I can handle. I want the other people to do the same, and this is where we at like that high level or strategic level is that's a high level.
Yeah.
And then I go into the complex zone where I figure out what's wrong, and then I bring back only the important stuff so that we can collaborate.
So that's a key part of the facilitator actually, to try to keep that.
Yeah, as a facilitator, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just to see if we missed anything at the end. So we tried a G, you saw that, good news, toolkit scanning, workshops, sustainability, everything's going pretty fine. Merci, thank you.
Wow.